Welcome to Fully Stoked Podcast. Today I have a special guest, Kaitlynn Woodard, and she is a licensed marriage and family therapist. We do not have Cody today because we have such a special guest today. We're going to be talking about boundaries, and we're going to be talking about everything that is involved with that, which is, I'm sure, a lot. I think a lot of women that I talk to, Kaitlynn, I have 3, 4 different women's networking organizations that I'm a part of. They're my friends. And this conversation comes up, all the time, weekly. We talk about boundaries and what are healthy boundaries, boundaries at work, boundaries with family, boundaries with friends, And it's like, I think we're always learning. I don't know about boundaries. So I'm super excited about this. I told Kaitlynn earlier this morning, I was having a conversation about boundaries. So it's definitely something that I think a lot of people are talking about right now.
Definitely.
Is it something that has always been out there, you think? Or no, it's just like recently it has?
I think the word has definitely been thrown around more recently.
Okay.
And I think there are more kind of different takes on that word as well that have come up in regards to it. There's some really positives that have come from it. And I think there are a lot of misconceptions as well about.
Can't wait to hear it. No, that's exciting. Okay. So we're gonna be talking about that. We're gonna cover why boundaries are hard and how to set them and how to handle pushbacks, maybe something like that. So let's just start simple. Like, what exactly are boundaries, Kaitlynn?
Yeah. So boundaries really are different limitations that we set for ourselves so that we can show up more authentically in our relationships with other people.
That's good. So we can show up. Oh, I like that. Because I guess if you don't have boundaries, you have to fake it.
Yeah.
Oh my, I said epiphany. That's just, it's so simple, but it's, wow, so good. More authentically. I didn't know that was the definition. Wow, that's wonderful. All right. So what are some different types of boundaries?
Yeah, so there are many different types. The ones that we really know of are kind of the external boundaries that we set. So that's with other people, maybe our limitations with other people, physical boundaries that might be like how much proximity we have towards people. Ones that aren't really talked about a lot are internal boundaries that we set for ourselves. And I guess environmental boundaries also are external, but that's another one.
So external can be environmental or with other people.
Yes.
Okay. Like, for example, right now, this is too close for comfort just for me, not because of Kaitlynn, but just in general. I don't like to be this close to people, but because of the camera, we're forced to be here, but that's okay. I was just thinking that. I was like, I normally wouldn't sit this close to somebody, especially with an entire table.
Right.
We could spread out at, right? So but that's definitely something that was back here. I was like, I feel too close to her. I don't want to breathe in case, COVID, da, da, da. Okay. So external can be, environmental, and it can just be like other people.
Yeah.
And so internal, I'm interested about that one. So tell me, like, where should we start? Should we,
I mean, I can explain an internal boundary is, how do we talk to ourselves? What's our self-talk? What are we spiraling? All of those things come into play with internal boundaries.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. I don't even think I know when I'm talking to myself sometimes. Is that common?
Yeah. I think like we get so used to kind of like our narratives and how we talk to ourselves, we don't even realize if we're talking down on ourselves or, it's until maybe it's too late.
So one important thing is that Kaitlynn is a licensed marriage and family therapist. However, this is not meant, how did she put it?
Yeah, this is not a replacement at all for mental health therapy. If you're looking for mental health therapy, then you can definitely reach out. There's so many different therapists out there that are accepting clients too. I'm accepting some clients. And obviously, like, I know Sarah, and so she couldn't be my client, right? Like, there's boundaries, right? There's boundaries there. Like, you can't have multiple relationships, things like that. So, but yeah, this is kind of like some just education.
Yeah. So, and then also the other important thing that you were saying was that
this doesn't apply as well if like you're in an abusive relationship, just really toxic relationship, things like that. It's best to get resources for that specifically and not go off some of this advice and just utilize your resources. There's different crisis resources, 988. That's mental health crisis line.
And we can include all of that in the summary here. Yeah. So this will be on YouTube and Spotify. Okay. And again, we'll have the trailers on some of my social media. So I'll have all of those links in there. So definitely reach out if, and I can connect you with Kaitlynn if for some reason you don't see her link in the bio. So, okay. Thank you. Thank you for saying that, because I know that's important. If you're in an abusive situation, then definitely you need to reach out to someone and use your resources, like she says. All right, so we were talking about external and internal. We talked about boundaries with your, like, how you talk to yourself. And I think you were just going to tell me more about internal boundaries, or is that just it?
Essentially, I think most of it is just internal boundaries, like how we think about ourselves, our thought processes, what we, how we go about different, situations, like what is our internal process with that? Like,
yeah, almost thinking about thinking. Yeah, I mean, you have to say, well, that's a lot of negative self-talk. I found myself, like, when I'm overworked, I think I get a little more negative with myself, and I need to have more grace at times, for sure. I was talking about that with my last appointment, actually. Let's see. Can you tell me, do you just want to go through some of these points? Just boundaries in different areas of your life, like relationships and marriage and romantic relationships, friendships, family relationships. Some signs that someone lacks boundaries. Like if someone didn't know, like, I've never heard of boundaries before, like, how could they know maybe they need to brush up on their boundaries?
Yeah, so I think one of the ways in which we know we might need more boundaries in our life is thinking about how we're thinking about other people in our lives, how we feel internally as well. So what that might look like is if we have a relationship with someone and there's just been a lot of frustration that has come up, a lot of is feeling exhausted from interacting with a certain person.
Exhaustion,
frustration. Like if you feel like, I really feel like I need to vent about this person to someone, that might be a telltale sign that you need more boundaries in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people just live in that too, and they don't have to. Once they identify it, they can get help and figure out how to give boundaries. So you really think that we need to give boundaries, it says here, to families and friends sometimes, really, the people that we love?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, sometimes family is the hardest. It's not the hardest, but it can be maybe the most triggering or complex because you love at the same time. Yeah,
well, they say, family is like the hardest to set boundaries with. Yeah, research shows that too.
I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. See, this is what you get when you're an expert. That's wonderful to know. What about like friendships? I had a girlfriend of mine, and we were going to do something together, and she was very demanding, and she's never been demanding before, but she wanted to, it was an hour and a half. She wanted it to be 3 hours. And we were having a group, and I thought, I haven't lost my mind because I've known this person for 5 years, and this has never been like this, but it was very demanding, but it was on a certain topic, I think. Mm-hmm. And I said, I think I'm going to have to give this person a boundary. Mm-hmm. I never thought I would say that before, but I started feeling myself get more nervous and anxious, and I said, I don't like this feeling. I think that means that boundary word. I think I need to do something about that. But it was hard because, you love your friends, and it's like, when do you, I guess you give boundaries to even friends when it's necessary, just when it's necessary. Yeah. And the more you practice, maybe, the more you know.
Yeah. And I think like it kind of goes back to that first point where it's like, man, if I were to spend maybe 3 hours instead of that 1.5 hour, 2 hours with this person, well, like, how would I be showing up in that space? Am I going into, those emotions of just frustration, exhaustion, all of these things? If that's the case, then, that's going to impact the relationship that I have with this person. Boundaries are really there so that we can maintain relationships with other people, stay in relationship with another person in a way that's healthy for both people.
Yeah. So she didn't like the boundary that I gave her. Mm-hmm. And there was fallout. And I think that I then had to decide, okay, that maybe that's an internal boundary with myself. Do I accept that her behavior after I've given her this external boundary, right?
Mm-hmm.
And continue to put myself there? Or do I not accept it? Sarah, what do you decide? Is that an internal boundary when you're deciding what you'll accept, maybe, or not necessarily? Is it?
I think it's definitely both, because you're kind of factoring in her experience. So that would be kind of externally,
Mm-hmm.
but you're also factoring in like your response to how she's feeling.
Yeah.
Too, right? Like you're having your own internal response to how she's responding to you. So it's it kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah. So I have a therapist who is not Kaitlynn. She's not my therapist. I wish she was, but we're friends, so we can't be. But I think that's the only reason that I recognize some of these things now, is because I have had somebody to walk me through some of these things, and I'm very grateful for it. Can't say enough about therapy. I think it's important. I mean, what about marriage and romantic relationships? Do you have anything that you want to share on that? Because I know that can be different than family and friends.
Yeah, I think in some ways they are definitely different. There's a lot kind of more emotion involved in some ways when it comes to a personal like relationship with a partner. You're having to, you're just so close with each other and you're navigating life together. Mm-hmm. And a lot can kind of come up in that dynamic, right? Like when our childhood experiences also come up when we're in a relationship with another person.
Yeah.
And all of these things. So I think our partners, and when we get frustrated and things like that, like we can fall into maybe some unhealthy patterns of how we kind of communicate with that other person in our life. I think it's important when we're setting boundaries in that environment that we're really aware of the other person, of their experiences, what they had growing up, like what triggers them. Those things are also important in families and in friendships, but I think they become even more important when we're in a relationship.
Is that empathy?
Empathy, compassion,
Putting yourself in their position, and then also compassion. What is how would you define compassion?
Empathy, I would say, is like sitting with somebody and allowing yourself to kind of be in that experience with them, like sit with them in their pains. That's like empathy. Compassion is kind of similar to that, but it's I think in some ways also, just being there for them and supporting them,
Yeah. All right, so how about work and business? When you're in a work scenario, and what about a boss? That seems like, in my life, that's been difficult to give a boundary to a boss. But you can still do it, right?
Yeah. One of the things I think, like in our world too, like we're, there's some kind of unspoken expectation of being available just all the time, and it's important that we're not available all the time. And sometimes, depending on kind of your management or your boss's style of going about work and that environment, you have to set more boundaries maybe than you normally do. Yeah.
Entrepreneur. Oh, this is a good one. I'm an entrepreneur. It's easy to be on all the time until the point of burnout. So how do we set those work-life boundaries? And is that an internal boundary or is it an external boundary?
Yeah, so I think like it's kind of they bleed into each other. But I think it's easier maybe to start with some external boundaries with that specifically, like having an out office, making sure that you're communicating with other people, like these are the hours I'm available, these are the hours I'm not available, and also making sure like you have activities planned and you have other areas that you're pouring into in your life too,
not just work.
Yeah,
it's really good. So I'll do that because I have a lot of work activities, but we've been trying to be intentional about doing like family activities for a while because I was working so many hours, and I think it's important So that affirms that idea. Ooh, social media and digital boundaries.
Yeah.
We live in a world where we are expected to be available 24/7. And so how do we set what you just said, the digital boundaries? You can do that out of office.
Yeah. And I think too, like when we are feeling like other areas of our life are a little bit out of balance, we'll go to social media more to fill in because it gives us sometimes a false sense of connection.
Yeah.
Like
A false sense, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll kind of go scrolling and like try to see what's going on in other people's lives. Yeah.
Yeah. So would you say like putting boundaries on and like time on those social media platforms?
Definitely.
Okay. What is healthy for a grown up? Is it the same as healthy for a teenager? Because teenagers can play video games too long. They can be online too long. They can be on social media too long. Do you hear about that? Do you have like an idea if it's healthy or?
I mean, I think both would benefit from boundaries on social media.
Yeah,
for sure. I think like it is definitely harder with teens because
so just in a healthy place so that you're not consumed by it, I guess.
Yeah.
It might be different for, I mean, obviously if you're in marketing, you're going to have to be on social media a lot more if that's your career.
Right.
There are a lot of factors that play into that. One of my girlfriends, well, several of them do digital marketing, and it's funny because they really don't have a lot of social media themselves, but they do it for other people.
Okay.
I guess they just they get tired at work. They don't want to do it. I don't blame them.
Makes sense.
Let's see. How do you suggest people maybe deal with unwanted opinions on social media, like family members giving unsolicited parenting advice or things like that, or strangers commenting on your life?
I think it's important to have a conversation with that person. If you see that kind of happening, like just attempt to communicate with them, let them know like how you feel about it. If that's kind of not the case with that person, like if you feel like you can't really have a conversation or it's just not possible to have a conversation, like it's more than okay to just have them see limited, amount of things that you post or to limit.
And you can control a lot of that. Yeah. If you go into the settings, you can control that. So on any of these types of boundaries, when people have to handle pushback and guilt, so especially with like family, I can imagine there's probably a lot of guilt because you have to keep seeing your family members, Like how do people deal with that?
Yeah. I think that's how boundaries kind of fall apart sometimes, is when we feel guilt or we feel some other emotions come up for us. So what I suggest with that is just trusting that person, whatever emotions come up for them, that they can handle their own emotions. We have to trust like they can handle, whatever comes up for them. And we have to be accountable and responsible for what comes up for us as well.
Wow, that's good. So we're reading the Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins, a couple of our book clubs, and it's good. I mean, it's good. It's just let them, you know, like I think I keep hearing that things like they can handle their own feelings. You're not responsible for their feelings, like, and that can be hard because you love these people. Can you give children boundaries? Like my children, they're sweet. They don't need that many boundaries, but like. I guess it is a thing. You have to give children boundaries too.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's super important as they grow. Maybe that's one of the most important things is not helping them as much.
I think it's definitely different, maybe a little bit with kids, because they're learning and growing, and you got to allow them to kind of face some of the consequences of their own actions sometimes, and that's really hard.
Yes, it is.
But I mean, you're there for them, and like as long as they know like they can come to you and provide that supportive environment, then that's really what's most important too.
So my daughter committed to too much work at her new job. It's not new anymore, and we've been trying to navigate how to tell her boss that she can't be there as much as she just wants to please her boss, and then she wants to play soccer and please the soccer coach, and she wants to make straight A's too, and she can't do all of it. And so I think she probably sees me because sometimes I work too many hours. And so I've tried to pull back for that reason because I see her getting exhausted and not implementing boundaries. And we've had this conversation. I'm like, babe, you have to have, boundaries with your work. So if you want a day off and you need a day off from school, from soccer, and from work, you need to set the boundary with your boss so she gets back. This was yesterday. We had like a 3-hour talk. Like we were walking and talked. The whole family was chiming in. Said, you can do it, Lainey. You can do it. Anyway, she goes to work and she comes back last night. I was like, did you tell him? She said, no. I said, babe, I'm your mom. I can tell him, but I think you're 16. Like, you need to be able to tell him, or you can tell him. She's like, I will. I'm going to tell him. I'm going to tell him next time. I was like, okay. But that's like growing, you know? She's got to set her own boundaries. If I just set them for her, and then she's not going to learn how to set them. But I also have to let her suffer the consequences of, okay, that means he's going to schedule for another Sunday. That's another week now, you know, because you didn't, but she'll learn. And then that way the next job, she'll be able to say, I don't work Sundays. I can't work Sundays, you know?
Has to be big enough, kind of.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, it's the best way to learn a lesson when I was growing up. So, well, this is a good one. What is a healthy way to reinforce a boundary if someone keeps crossing it?
So, I mean, there's different, in regards to there is, you know, different kinds of boundaries, but we also have different kind of like types of boundaries too. So like there's flexible boundaries, more rigid boundaries. So this kind of brings up that topic a little bit with that question. So when we have a lot of pushback or somebody may not really understand, maybe we've had a conversation with them already, we try to also communicate, you know, where the other person's coming from and they're just not getting it, then we have to get a little bit more rigid. And so what that looks like is kind of depending on where you're at with that, it's just not explaining it again and then also saying what you're going to have to do because they're not respecting the boundary. So whatever that kind of looks like. And sometimes no is also a full sentence. I like to say that too. But
it's good.
Yeah. So we just gotta get a little bit more refined and not allow them to impact our behavior.
Okay.
By the way in which they're crossing that boundary and also not repeating that boundary over and over and over again.
Because essentially they're still crossing it if you keep repeating it, right? At some point
they don't trust you. I mean, they're like, you know, you're just going to say the boundary again and then I'm going to cross it again and, you know.
Yeah. And then you have to enforce the boundary. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's what I was afraid of.
Yeah.
That's okay. What are 2 to 3 simple boundary setting exercises? Do you have any? I don't know if you have those or not, but
yeah. One of the things I would really encourage is maybe some journaling. I know it's kind of something you hear a lot in therapy, but sitting with your emotions, sitting with your relationships, like how do you feel about your relationships with other people? And just taking some time to like write down some of the things that you're experiencing. What emotions are coming up? Are you overdoing something with somebody? Like, are you feeling really frustrated with someone else? And just writing down some of those things, listening to your feelings, listening to your emotions, it can really be eye-opening to what you might need.
That's good.
Another thing I would maybe suggest is practicing some mindfulness and doing some self-compassion exercises so that you can gain more confidence while you're setting boundaries with other people.
What is a self-compassion exercise? What does that look like?
So it's kind of, I mean, you can use some mindfulness stuff. So like engage in like some breathing techniques or some meditations. There's some tailored specific meditations that you can find that incorporate self-compassion. And that might be like a statement or two that you can tell yourself as you're kind of going through a hard time. It's just being kind to yourself, practicing that.
I love that. Buddy does too. He just popped up. Yes, that's good. Self-compassion is important.
Yes.
And where can people find you or learn more about your work?
Yes. So I have a Psychology Today. That's a directory that a lot of therapists use. If you look up my name, and I'm sure maybe you could like post a link or something.
Yes.
Consultations through that website if people were to email me, and I can get them connected to resources or to services.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, we'll do that. This is absolutely timely. I can't tell you how many women that I talk to every week. We have this conversation about boundaries, and I think it's like it's a really important concept, but it's really hard. And you just broke it down